Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this video today is watching through the film Batman Begins and taking it from an angle I don't think I've ever seen anyone on YouTube do before. We are going to be counting every time a sin is committed inside of this movie. At the end of the movie, we're going to tally up all of the characters and see who the worst sinner in Batman Begins is. Is it Scarecrow? Is it Ra's al Ghul? Is it Batman himself? I feel like we often idolize these characters in our favorite movies as the good guys just because the films portray them that way. But I feel like we seldom ask ourselves, are they actually the good guy? Or is that just how the film portrays them? So we're going to be comparing all the characters in this movie. Let's go ahead and get started because we have a lot of material to cover.
You are in hell, Licher Man. And I am the devil.
All right, so we start off with Batman inside of a prison of sorts. I forget exactly where it's in. Bhutan, is that how you say it? And these prisoners start a fight with him. We don't exactly know why they don't like him. And Batman later says that was 7 different men, so we'll classify that as 7, 1 for each man. So the prison guards, once they released Bruce, threw him out of the vehicle. I mean, I don't think it's a very good thing to do to throw people out of moving vehicles. So we'll at least count that as a gray area sin because he was technically a criminal. But even then, they could have severely injured him.
Are you ready to begin? I can barely stand. Death does not wait for you to be ready. Death is not considerate warfare.
Okay, so we see Ra's al Ghul beat up Batman when he can barely stand. That is more of a gray area because he's doing that for training purposes. He's not just beating up Batman to beat up Batman. So we'll probably let that one slide for Ra's al Ghul, but don't worry, he commits plenty of sins later on in the movie. Yeah, the opera looks like it should be a sin, even though I can't classify it.
What's wrong, Bruce?
No, it was me. I just needed some fresh air.
All right, so we see Bruce's father cover up for Bruce being afraid in the opera theater by lying and saying that he was the one who wanted to leave the theater. Technically a sin, although he did it for good purposes.
Wallace, Joey, come on, fast.
That's fine. Just take it easy. Now just take it and go.
I said Joey.
Okay, so that's incredibly sad scene. That's several sins all at once. A sin for him pulling the gun on them. Then I would count it as 2 separate sins for robbing each one of them. So that's 3 sins, and then 2 more sins for killing each of them. So that robber committed a minimum of at least 5 sins.
Who is he? He was a farmer, and he tried to take his neighbor's land and became a murderer. Now he is a prisoner.
What'll happen to him?
Justice? Crime cannot be tolerated.
Okay, so we see Ra's al Ghul sentencing a man to death because he supposedly murdered his neighbor, which I actually am a advocate of capital punishment, but that is not the proper scenario. And Batman himself later attests to the fact that that man deserves a trial. And without a trial, it is, I consider, a sin to sentence a man to death without actually being able to verify his deeds.
This place is a mausoleum. If I have my way, I'll pull the thing down brick by brick. Why do you? It's not your family.
Because a good man.
Okay, some of you guys might not like me saying this, but I classify any time a profanity is uttered as a sin. I do not believe we as Christians should be allowing coarse speech to come out of our mouths. And of course, it's going to be very hard to classify different sins inside of this video because cussing is not nearly as severe a sin as killing a person. Obviously, some characters may accumulate sins for minor purposes versus others for big purposes.
He learned things, and he will testify in exchange for early parole.
Rachel, this man killed my parents. I cannot let that pass.
So we see, although Batman has a desire for justice, I do perceive that as a case of him allowing bitterness into his heart, which I do believe we as Christians are not called to do, and I can't hold him to the same standard, but I do believe allowing bitterness to take root in your heart is a sin. The The Bible says that if we allow hate into our hearts, that is the same as murder. If you hate a brother, it's as if you murdered him. So that planning on his part still counted as if he had murdered that man in the eyes of God. And then, of course, this lady sent by Falcone to murder that man was a sin on her part as well.
Come on, Bruce. We don't need to see this.
I do.
And once again, Bruce is allowing bitterness to continue to take over his life.
Falcone paid him off to get Chill out in the open.
Maybe I should be thanking them.
Okay. Batman still allowing bitterness to take him over.
Look around you. You'll see 2 councilmen, a union official, a couple off-duty cops, and a judge. Now, I wouldn't have a second's hesitation of blowing your head off right here and right now in front of them. Now, that's power you can't buy.
So a little bit to digest there also, but basically in a nutshell, Falcone pulls a gun on Bruce. It's not loaded, but that's still, I would consider threatening him. And we see a judge and a cop supposedly in affair type relationships inside of this place.
All right. In the joint, Chill told me about the night he killed your parents. He said your father begged for mercy, like a dog.
All right, so Falcone allowed Bruce to be dragged away and beaten up. 1 sin each for the people that were beating up an innocent man. And then I would count Falcone for taunting Bruce, making fun of his parents' deaths. And then I would classify it as another sin, throwing an innocent man roughly onto the ground.
First time I stole so that I wouldn't starve. Yes, I lost many assumptions about the simple nature of right and wrong.
We see Batman stealing food, however desperate the purpose. Stealing is stealing. He also shares that with another boy, but the boy likely doesn't know he stole it and so wouldn't be necessarily partaking of his actions.
And when I traveled, I learned the fear before a crime and the thrill of success.
And here we see Batman participating with some criminals, apparently in a robbery heist.
Oh, what the do I care what your name is?
And then just another profanity.
Levoy!
I'm no executioner.
Your compassion is a weakness your enemies will not share.
That's why it's so important.
That's a perfect representation of what actually separates Ra's al Ghul and Batman, who are actually more similar than a lot of people would realize, but it's the fact that Batman is willing to show mercy in ways that Ra's al Ghul would not. So that is a sin for Ra's al Ghul to call for Batman to kill a man who has not been properly tried, and it's also a sin for any of the people who participated in trying to allow this man to die.
What are you doing?
What's necessary, my friend?
Okay, so Batman ends up burning down an entire building, killing numerous people. He's trying to save his life and escape, and this is more, I would classify as an act of self-defense.
In my opinion, Mr. Zsasz is as much a danger to himself as to others, and prison is probably not the best environment for his rehabilitation.
We see a case where Crane, who is a serial sinner in this movie, as you're going to find out, is trying to deceitfully get a parole for Zsasz, which is just wrong. This guy does not deserve parole, and he's using deceit to try to achieve this.
No more favors. Someone is sniffing around.
Hey, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, Doc. I'm bringing in the shipments.
So this is basically Crane asking Falcone to silence Rachel, and then Falcone is basically openly admitting that he is bringing in illegal shipments.
I am more than aware that you are not intimidated by me, Mr. Falcone, but you know who I'm working for.
So that's another sin for Crane. He's just threatening Falcone's life.
So, what's your interest in it, Mr. Wayne?
I want to borrow it for spelunking.
Spelunking.
Yeah, you know, cave diving.
So this is kind of a gray area. Batman's explaining why he wants to use the suit that Lucius Fox has, and he says it's for spelunking, which is, I guess, partially true because he is preparing his cave, but it's kind of a lie and it's kind of not. So we see Flash here robbing a cashier, and that's just wrong.
I'm no rat. In a town this big, who's there to rat to anyway?
So one of the few sins inside of this movie on Jim Gordon's plate is the fact that he refuses to expose Flash for being a robber himself when he's a cop. He's refusing to tell anyone.
Don't turn around. You're a good cop.
So Batman pretends to pull a gun on Jim Gordon, and it just ends up being a stapler. So I don't think he's actually done anything wrong here.
What's that?
Another profanity.
We never could get the bridge to work.
Another profanity.
I need you at the docks Thursday.
Problems?
I don't want any trouble with the last shipment.
So Falcone sends a cop to his illegal drug site. That's a sin for Falcone, and when the cop actually goes there, for him as well.
Word on the street is you got a beef with somebody in the DA's office.
Is that right?
And that there's a fat prize waiting for anybody willing to do anything about it.
Flash offers to take out Rachel. So that's basically a sin for every one of the people who are participating inside of this illegal drug operation. It ends up being around 10 people. There's the people loading, and then there are some guards.
What the are you? I'm Batman.
So profanity from Falcone, Batman knocks him out. He's knocking out a criminal to end up turning him in. So that's nothing on Batman. He did the right thing in that case. Two men try to kill Rachel, 1 point for each of them. Another profanity from some random cop. I have no idea who that guy even is.
I don't care if it's rival gangs, guardian angels, or the Salvation Army.
Okay, used a pretty strong profanity that time. I feel like I should give him double points for that one, but 1 point for this guy.
They say it was just one guy. Or creature.
What's the costume?
Another profanity. This guy's got a dirty mouth.
That's your nocturnal. Bats may be, but even for billionaire playboys, 3 o'clock is pushing it.
Sleeping until 3 o'clock should be a sin, if I had any say over it, but I don't.
The Coast Guard picked up one of our cargo ships last night. Heavily damaged, all crew missing, probably dead. The ship was carrying a prototype weapon. It's a microwave emitter.
So basically, the League of Shadows sent some people to kill these people on a Wayne Enterprises ship and rob a technology from them. So for every person who's participating in that, that was a point for them. Also a point for Ra's al Ghul because he obviously was the one who initiated this. 1 point for having those people killed and 1 point for stealing technology from Wayne Enterprises.
So whatever he's planning, it's big, and I want it.
Falcone offering to once again dive into the crime world. You get another point, pal.
So when did the nut take over the nut house?
They scream and they cry.
Well, he's not faking. Not that one.
So, Crane basically destroys Falcone's mind and lies about, I mean, it's technically his mental state, but uses deception.
Flash, I have kids to feed.
Well, you don't like falafel?
So Flash basically just steals a hot dog and money from a guy who's running a hot dog stand and has kids to feed. I mean, that's just low. Flash should be ashamed of himself. Plus, he gets a soggy hot dog, so he really didn't get anything out of it anyway.
Where were the other drugs going?
It's hard how to classify this. I'm going to classify it as not anything on Batman's record because he's using whatever means necessary he has to get the information, and he's not actually damaging or injuring or killing this man.
I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
And we also hear Flash basically misuse the name of God, I swear to God, so.
Get rid of all traces.
Torch the whole place.
All right.
3 people together are contributing to destroying evidence of drugs.
If you want my opinion, you need to lighten up.
And we see here, Crane is just setting Batman on fire. I mean, I don't have to go into detail about that one.
Isn't it convenient for a 52-year-old man who has no history of mental illness to suddenly have a complete psychotic breakdown just when he's about to be indicted?
Well, as you can see for yourself, there's nothing convenient about his symptoms.
So Crane basically implies no knowledge of how Falcone completely lost his rockers. He doesn't outright lie, but he is implying a lack of knowledge about something he caused. So I'd classify that as a gray area for him. Okay, so Crane not only abducts Rachel, he also drugs her up with a drug that has potential to kill her. He later admits it was a highly potent dose. And it's a point for basically every single person in that basement who's contributing to an operation that they should know morally is just wrong.
Taste of your own medicine, doctor.
So Batman ends up using Crane's own compound on him. Honestly, Crane is a murderous and horrible person, so I don't feel much sympathy for him. And not only that, Batman did need a method to immobilize someone who was attacking him. Batman was mainly acting in self-defense here.
Crane's been smuggling his toxin hidden inside Falcone's drugs and then dumping it into the water supply.
Crane is using these drugs to smuggle in his toxin. So I would classify that as another point for Crane. He is rushing to his center of operations to save Rachel from dying, but some of the property that he destroyed was not necessary. He probably could have found another path that did not involve destroying that police car, so that's just reckless destruction of property. Every time that Batman destroys a police car, I would actually count that as 3 points on his record, because he's not only destroying property, he is also endangering the lives of 2 people. So every time he does a police car, I'm going to count that as 3 points. That's a pretty unnecessary destruction of property. That was probably necessary. I don't think he could have made his way around that one. So we'll classify that as more of a gray.
Go underground, block that ramp.
He destroyed 2 cars by pulling in between them and also destroyed a wall, which that's a little more necessary because he ended up getting trapped on the roof, and it was probably his only way to get off of the roof. So he destroyed 2 road guards and another police car.
Coming right up on his butt.
So that is just unnecessary. He destroyed 3 police cars, putting 6 lives at risk. And he does cause the destruction of a wall, a building, which causes another police car to crash.
What would you call that?
Good television.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
Another profanity from Batman himself. So 2 fake SWAT members end up attacking and very likely killing a man, 1 point for each, and then they also both team up to release the prisoners from the Arkham facility. So 2 more points for each one of them.
Time to play.
These 2 SWAT members also, man, they're going on a roll. Release Crane.
When a forest grows too wild, a purging fire is inevitable and natural.
So, first of all, I just love the fact how Bruce Wayne is getting his house burnt down and he acts like he could care less, like he's not even paying attention to it. But still, for every person who contributes, including Ross himself, that's another point for burning down an innocent man's house.
Tomorrow the world will watch in horror as its greatest city destroys itself. The movement back to harmony will be unstoppable this time.
So Ra's al Ghul, whether it's an unconscious or conscious decision, still decides to continue to go forward with his plan to destroy Gotham.
If someone stands in the way of true justice, you simply walk up behind them and stab them in the heart.
I am gonna stop you.
You never did learn to mind your surroundings.
And then he proceeds to attack and shove Bruce underneath a falling beam, trying to kill him. These two SWAT members are on a roll. So they're blowing up a wall to the Arkham facility, allowing the criminals to escape.
Get them to raise the bridges. We don't want any getting off the island.
Yeah, I'll raise the bridges when I get every available unit out here to catch the homicidal maniacs that are running loose out there.
Okay, Flash, who's just a scum individual anyway, refuses to raise the bridges to save the people on the mainland. That's cowardice, and it's wrong.
Harassment! I see harassment!
Well, maybe you'd like to see some excessive force. Bad man with the gun.
Okay, flashbacks for the past couple years here in American history, but Flash is pulling a gun on an innocent American citizen.
I can't find my mom.
That's just wrong. Refusing an opportunity to help a kid who's lost and needs his parent.
What are you doing?
Ooh, Rachel got a point on her record, uttering a profanity.
Jesus, the pressure, it's spiking.
Okay, a man uses the Lord's name in vain. So Roz turns on the water vaporizer that's designed to create a misty smoke throughout the area through which the toxins can be dispersed. That is a point not only for Roz, but for every one of those people over there who are participating with this action.
What the is going on in there?
This guy, yet another profanity. And so when it comes to the people that are committing horrible actions underneath the influence of the toxins that Crane created, it's really hard how to classify this, but these people are obviously not in their right minds. They've completely lost it and they're off of bonkers. So for the sake of simplicity, we're not going to count these people in this video.
I'm here to help.
So Crane confronts and tries to attack Rachel. Rachel acts in self-defense. A point for Crane and not for Rachel. Four men under Ra's al Ghul's command attack Batman, so it's a point for each, and Ra's al Ghul himself, who basically ordered these people to attack Batman. Ra's al Ghul has the vaporizer boarded onto a train to take it to the mainland. Point for him, point for the other two guys on the train.
Who the authorized this?
I feel like every time this guy's face is on the screen, he utters a profanity. Gordon accidentally damaged two cars. I would differentiate this from when Batman damages a car, because we know Gordon's literally never driven this vehicle before. It's an absolute accident, versus when Batman does it, it's not because it's an accident. He's competent to drive the vehicle and avoid them if he wants to. First of all, I love that guy backing away. He's like, sick ride, and then and just walks away. That's my great explanation of the scene. Gordon destroys a pillar, column, whatever you want to call it, structure, support for the train, causing the train to crash. That was an effort that was necessary to save countless lives, so nothing on Gordon's record there. So anyway, that, I believe, we of course have the scene where Batman allows Ra's al Ghul to die. That's not on Batman's record. He had to do that to save lives. That is me having gone through all the sins inside of Batman Begins. That was a project. So now it is time for the point score. First of all, on the screen, you can see the count of all the sins committed by the major characters inside of this film. So anyway, I'm curious to see what you guys think. Tell me in the comments if you would like me to do more videos like this. I want to react to some other franchises, including ones like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Spider-Man, some of the Marvel films. So let me know if you're interested in seeing more films run through like this. And with that, you guys have a fantastic day.